Hey y'all, thanks for joining me here today. A question I get asked often is what needles to use for whatever. So I grabbed a few needles from the shop and I'm going to go over some of my favorite, what some of them are going to be used for, why some are better than others. I didn't have all the ones that I wanted to grab, so I won't have to be able to show you an example, but I'll talk about some. My favorite overall needle is the Floriani Chrome Microtex. I use these probably 90% of the time. I usually use the 8012s. If I'm doing something heavier, want my needle to last longer, I use a 914. These are good for almost everything I do. I can use it for like these Dunroven dish rags, or if you're doing something with like a heavier pile, like an actual towel or hand towel, they work great. That right there, it offers a good satin stitch. One thing I do like to note to tell people is you're typically going to want to stay away from 7511s unless you're doing something really delicate. I do use those, but if you use them, you want to be a little more careful with your needle threader. The eye of a 7511 is just big enough for your threader to get in and out. If you've been using that needle for a little bit longer than you remember, you may damage your threader, and then you don't have a threader anymore until you get it fixed, so that's no good. This whole quilt was done with the Floriani Microtex 8012. This is in a Good Design shop pop. So it's your typical block by block, and then you stitch in the ditch to finish it off with a binding. But I hope you can see in the camera, but it does a really good job with all of its stitching. Gives you a great stitch quality. And this is what we always use with our in the hoop projects. Another needle that I use a lot that I don't have here is an 8012 ballpoint. That's the kind of needle you want to use whenever you're dealing with like a knit shirt, especially children's knits. They tend to be a little looser weave, a little softer. But even if you're doing applique, it comes out really good with the satin stitch. There's another one. But even on adult shirts, if you're doing a knit, just go ahead and use a ballpoint. It's going to come out looking a lot better. Two needles that I'm going to put in kind of the same category are leather and denim needles. Hope you see those. Your size is going to depend on exactly what you're doing with these, because if you're doing a heavier leather, like a motorcycle vest or jacket, that kind of leather is super heavy, and you're going to want to go with a large needle, probably even bigger than 116. But for all your general smaller leathers, synthetic suedes and stuff like that, 116, maybe even a 914 leather is awesome. And then with denim, these are made, they're a little more stout, so these are going to go through like that double layer if you're hemming your jeans or something like that. Again, your size is going to vary, but the 914 usually always works for me. A needle that I always recommend for people to use for all your general sewing, even some quilting and embroidery, is just a simple universal 8012. There we go. These are really just kind of nice to have on hand for all your whatnots. There's no general, this is what this is used for. It's literally an all-purpose needle. So definitely keep some of these 8012s, 914s. They're great. These are a stretch needle. These aren't a 7511 because most of the time you're going to be doing this with like spandex type material, swimsuits, knitwear, stuff like that. They do have a similar point to a ballpoint, but the tip is a little sharper for going through those thinner, stretchier materials. Lastly is a 914 quilting needle. This is going to be more used if you're doing machine quilting or free motion. It's got a tapered needle, so when you're delivering usually heavier stitches or heavier thread through 3 layers of material like your quilt top, your batting, and your backing, it gives you a really nice stitch top and bottom, and kind of prevents some of that skipping stitches that you can see with some other needles that you may use. Thank you all for watching today. I hope that answers some questions. You may have seen a common interest in all the needles. They were all Floriani Chrome. I really like using those over just standard metallic needles, mainly because I'm always using the Floriani thread. So It delivers really well. I don't have to do a lot of shredding. They don't heat up the same. So most of the time, if I can, I'm going to be using a Floriani chrome needle. I'm going to list all the different needles that I use in the description box below in case you weren't able to see it or if I didn't say something clear enough. If you do have any additional questions, just drop a comment below or shoot me an email, and I'll see you on the next one.